Hey everyone, as we get ready to gather together this Sunday in our new church rhythm of our service and our second session, there's so much vision that I would love to spend time sharing with you all. But as I was getting ready to record a little video for our Kidsmen volunteers and to you parents, I just got a nudge from the Lord that maybe this was a word for all of us in the church at large. And so I just wanted to share with you that this past Advent season, I have really been drawn to noticing Mary. And I think it's probably because right now I am keenly aware of the time and energy and strength that it takes day in and day out to raise little kids. But typically each Christmas I reflect on Jesus as a baby. And then for some reason, as I move on from Christmas time, I sort of just skip right over his growing up years and I start interacting with him again as Jesus, the full grown adult man in the prime of his years of ministry, in his early 30s. But this year I was just particularly curious about Jesus as a boy, as Jesus as an awkward teenager, and just thought about how Mary must have wondered and doubted and wondered some more so many times if she had just gotten this message all wrong. Because the revelation that God was sending the Savior into the world through her and through a baby came before she was even pregnant. But then she had to carry that knowledge and that insight for years and decades before she saw any fruit that this reality was going to come to pass. My point is that she had to wait. She had to keep waiting. She had to choose to wait and choose to believe. She had to choose to embrace and nurture the small and weak Jesus, because God was doing something and he was working and growing someone that was far greater than she could even imagine. And yet he looked really ordinary, I'm sure, in so many of those day-to-day moments as she just cared and trained, nurtured and loved and redirected him and loved him and loved him and loved him. And so I just think as we head into this new year, my encouragement is just that the incarnation is not really a one-time event that is supposed to be just moved on from as Christmas comes and goes. It's really an ongoing event. God's coming to dwell with us actually is something that continues to happen over and over through the Spirit in us. And this is what gets me so excited about having children in our service in particular, is that each person in our community bears the full image of God. And so the question is, can we hold space for that, for the weak, for the most immature and helpless among us? Do we have eyes to see? And can we believe for them? You know, this can be quite a challenge for us to do with each other as adults. And I just have a sense that as we're expanding space for kids in our service, that they're just going to cause us to have to see differently, to see with more expectation, and maybe even to see with more patience. And that word patience just has stood out to me as well. And I'm reminded that 1 Corinthians tells us that love is patient. And that's the very first descriptor of love that we get in that passage. And it sort of has to be because love showed up in the flesh as a baby in a barn. And there's nothing that you have to be more of than patient when you are caring for and loving a baby that grows into a child, that grows into a teenager, that grows into an adult. Love started out small and needy, and it grew as it was nurtured. And so really that's what we're all invited to do together as a community. And this is really an opportunity, I think, for us to see reflected in ourselves our own immaturity, our own shortcomings, and to recognize that we're loved anyway. We're loved in spite of those things. But also, I think, to see that there's a sense of awe and wonder in children, and just to let that touch us deeply as we watch them interact with God in the service. And just as a reminder that God really does invite us to come to him with the faith of a little child. And so just as Jesus was given to us as a little baby, so too, these little precious ones among us are given to us to embrace. And, even more profoundly than that, we're also given each other as adults in the places where we aren't capable, where we need to be cared for. God has put us in a family to receive his tenderness and his affection. And so obviously this message hopefully is resonating for you all who have said yes to serve in our kids ministry, and to you who are parents. But I think really this is an invitation to everyone in the church that you can actually be a spiritual mom or a spiritual dad. Even if you're not back there with the kiddos, you still have a chance to believe in what God is growing up in these little ones, to see their potential and to encourage it, all the while making space for all the ways that they don't quite have love and life and faith figured out. So on that note, I just want to say I am so impressed with our teachers of Vineyard Kids, at the passion, at the intentionality that you guys are bringing to the work that you're doing back there with the kids. I've watched you just really come alive in this process of planning out experiences that you're going to have together with the kids. And I just want you all to know this is going to be a huge gift, not only to the kids, but to all of us in the community at large. So let's just remember as we gather this Sunday and beyond that it's sowing into people that really is an eternal investment. And so just like Mary had to wait a really good portion of her lifetime to see the fruit of her labor, we too should really expect that what we plant is going to be slow growing, but it is going to also be really, really good. So I look forward to seeing you, and we'll talk more soon.